Hi, hello there. It's me. And now this isn't another Dr. Watts plug trying to get more into that universe, and that's actually what I want to talk about. Actually, uh, I'd like to highlight the fact that I posted this in the non-canon playlist, so you can be sure that this isn't going in line with that storyline or anything. But I just like to talk for a minute directly because after just finishing that first act of Watts, I feel a need to kind of explain what it was that was and why I did it. Because if you've been on my channel for any amount of time up until this point, you can see it's a pretty big deviation from the kind of content I was putting out before. So let's talk about it a little bit. Um, so the idea started simply enough. It was basically just had to do with the sight gag of the glasses on the lamp, and that was really all that the idea was. But then it really got it started to develop. I just started getting more ideas for it, and then it became a vehicle for other ideas that I've had through the years to kind of fold into the mix. And by the time I got to episode like 8 or 9 or so, I pretty much had a blueprint for how the rest of this was going to go, which was surprising because I normally have a lot of trouble with not necessarily creating content, but creating scripts. And it's, I love coming up with ideas and I love workshopping them with people, but a big problem I have is putting pen to paper. That's not a discipline that I've really developed, and I have trouble with the preciousness of the idea, which is why I was able to go so far with this one. I mean, the first act is basically a feature length. It's over 90 minutes if you count all the hidden videos. So, in a way, because this was such a toss-away idea, I was able to take it this far. And after it was getting going, I was able to incorporate other ideas that had been more precious in the past and were basically, half-finished script ideas at that point. Um, so I wanted to make it not only about using the filmmaking process itself as a method of draft writing, but I also wanted to make some meta commentary on my particular process. So it's it both is process and is about process. So that's probably why it comes across kind of convoluted a lot of the time. Actually, I don't know how it comes across. I mean, because everything I put out there makes sense to me, and it's got like a logical thread behind it for the reason it is and the way it is. As far as to the way I shot it, the technical glitches that I decided to go back and fix or decided to leave in. Um, Everything has a purpose and has a decision behind it. So yeah, it was also an opportunity to kind of just expand my palette in the complexity of the story that I was willing to tell. I wasn't really sure that this was something I could pull off, but I'm really, really happy with where it ended up, and it's given me a lot of ideas with what to do with the channel going forward. Because it's really been about, when I say it's about process, it's kind of about the process of me developing public persona, but it's also about me coming to terms with something that I think a lot of people during the pandemic have an issue with, which is like realizing that when all of their social context is taken away, it feels like there's less. There's a worry that there's not enough interests and personality on your own to occupy your time. And I think a lot of people ran into some kind of existential crisis, having to be alone so much and figuring out what their own opinions were when they weren't catering them to their audience. So yeah, and that's an idea I've always struggled with, especially as a performer, because I feel like we're a little bit more self-aware of when we put on a mask to fit a social situation, and I think it's something we're pretty good at. Um, but one of the reasons I wanted to do this channel, and one of the reasons I started doing naked covers, was because I was seeking something a little bit more raw and authentic, where I didn't really have an opportunity or a reason to create that kind of character. But now I'm kind of seeing I need to take a step back and basically commit to that practice, but with the goal of actually figuring out what that character of me, absent all of those contexts, is. So that leads me to the channel going forward, which, is of course gonna have to do with Act 2 of Dr. Watts, which is going to be coming much later. I'm going to be taking a break between acts, so it's mostly just to give myself some time to mentally reset, but also because I want to actually do a lot more development before I start filming this one. Because, basically the first one I was developing as I was going, and like I said, it wasn't until I got to like episode 7 or 8 where I finally saw where the story was going and saw what I wanted to do with it as a whole. So, with Act 2, really it comes down to kind of the cliffhanger that I left with of finding a personality by trial and error. Basically, these versions of myself, these characters, are going to be trying out different activities, even ones that, I feel like I'm already familiar with that I've tried in the past. Basically, it's start fresh and basically come at all of these different things that I could do for the channel with a fresh perspective, and that's one of the reasons why I want to continue developing these little shards of personality characters and making them more exaggerated, like really fleshing them out, because they were kind of finding themselves as I went. That was one of the byproducts of just not waiting until I had a finished script before I started actually making it. So, with all of that in mind, with Act 2 being more focused on just general activities as opposed to a central story, which there will still be a central thread mostly involving the static creatures and what their identity is, it's mostly going to be about upping audience engagement and setting the channel to where it's going to be continuing after Dr. Watts is over, which is going to basically just be a try everything kind of thing. And of course, I'm going to have some things that I focus on that I already kind of have some expertise in to, already get going with their own thing. I'm still going to be doing song covers. And that reminds me, actually, as I'm going to be starting a Patreon for people who do want to continue to support the content. There's equipment that I want to replace with better quality equipment. I got this little itty bitty tripod that I want to get a real microphone arm for, so that I can actually stand and use it, which would be good for some more intense song covers that I want to do in the future. So if you want to help increase the production value, I'm also looking to get a production space for this kind of stuff at some point, especially because I want to do a lot of cooking on the channel, and my current kitchen isn't really conducive to that. So if I could, get to a point where I'm renting out a production space, or like they have rental production kitchens all over LA, so that would be something that would be on the wish list for the future. But yeah, so you can go there, and that's where I'm going to be on Patreon, is where all of the audience participation that actually makes it to the channel is going to happen. So when I'm actually fielding suggestions for songs to cover, activities to do, or recipes to try, that's all going to happen on there. Basically, all I have right now is a $2 level that basically gets you access to, the main conversation on the page, and I'll be adding more tiers as I go, and maybe you guys have some suggestions of some things that you would want in those higher tiers. I'm all for hearing about that. It's all a little bit new to me. So that's the place you want to go, and when we get this going, if you want to suggest a song, if you want to suggest a scene to play opposite myself, maybe there's a question about my personality that we think might, shed some light on some things we can play out with fun sketch. I mix the two words. It could be like a fun skit with a couple of the characters. So that's it. So covers Watts Act 2, covers Patreon. So let's talk about the naked covers. And this was a tough decision because it was one of the first things I thought of doing for my channel, and I really had wanted to continue at least all the way until the end of Volume 3. The reason I'm stopping has a lot to do with the reasons I started to do it in the first place. Mostly it was because I didn't really have any solid ideas on regular content to put out. It was just a really simple equation that I didn't have to think about too much. It also gave me an excuse to have to do a whole song in one take, which was really good practice for when I was getting ready to try and do some live performance for the first time. And it actually ended up being really helpful for that. And it was also just about general body acceptance, and it was also a little bit of a time capsule to kind of like see some fun things like my hair growing long and stuff like that. But it doesn't really. I'm not really in need of those things anymore. I'm very comfortable with live performance, and honestly, the sound quality of the overall song suffers when I am forced to commit to whatever the best full run of that song was. So I want to be putting out more fully mixed versions of those songs. They're still going to be pretty bare bones, but I just want them to sound better. And there also has been, I haven't really been liking the engagement that's been happening with them. A lot of the comments really just have to do with wanting me to show more, and that's not really what this is about. I mean, I'm not naive. I know that like some people are going to like see this in a sexual context because there's skin involved, but I don't know, a lot of the engagement that I've had with it, even early on, some people would reach out to me directly and like offer suggestions on how to make it more popular, and like really try to push me to do things. And yeah, the way that people are interacting with those videos just really makes me really uncomfortable, and I've just decided that I don't want those fans anymore. So I'm sorry if that's what you come to my channel to see, but I'm looking to put some actual thought into what I produce now. And yeah, I mean, tough break for you guys, but it's just, I just don't want to do it anymore. And unfortunately, it is some of the comments and direct contact that I've gotten around those videos that's making me really want to stop. And it's unfortunate, but I feel like it served its purpose, and yeah, I don't have to do it anymore if I don't want, so screw you guys. But not really, because like honestly, those of you who have stuck around, like Gregory, Wow Factor, both of you guys have been consistently commenting on my stuff, and I know that's not what you originally came to my channel to see, so that makes it all the more, that makes me appreciate it all the more. It was just, I would have been making it anyway, but just knowing that even one or two people were watching, it really made a big difference. And yeah, I know that this is going to probably pull some traffic from my channel for a while, and I have to be okay with that, and I am. And I'm really excited about how we're moving going forward. It's going to be more stuff like this. It's going to be more fleshing out of that Dr. Watts stuff, and now that we kind of got the universe established, it's going to be, a lot more little fun vignettes that aren't quite as existentially confusing. But really, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching so far, the dozen of you or so that there are. And I hope you'll come with me as I continue to grow and evolve the channel. And I don't know, maybe naked covers will come back eventually if I can think about a way to incorporate it that makes sense. But I wouldn't hold my breath. And if you're on here just to try to get a peek at my ass, maybe go try to find it somewhere else, because I've never been shy about it, so it's not like it's hard to find. But it's not for this anymore. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon. Take care.